All right. So in this video, I want to talk about essays, right? In the last video, we talked about paragraphs, okay, and how each paragraph is kind of tightly focused on a single idea, okay. And it's important to understand that paragraphs mark the movement of one idea to the next within an essay, right? So in an essay, you've got basically three parts. You have the introduction, the body, and then the conclusion. So in the introduction, right, introductory paragraph, a thesis is presented. Boom, right? In the body of the paragraph, that thesis is developed, and then at the end of the paragraph, that thesis is restated. Okay? And it seems like, especially when you're writing like a 26 line essay for like the Star or something like that, it seems strange to kind of present a thesis and then at the bottom of the same page, go back and restate that thesis, which is why we have, kind of condensed, like abridged introductions and conclusions for those paragraph or for those types of essays. But that's a very important thing as you start to, you move on to like 4 to 6 page papers, 10 to 12 page papers, and so forth. Okay. As I said, in the introduction, we present the thesis. Okay. So ultimately, when you're writing an academic essay, right, these are my suggestions. This is kind of what I prescribe to you. Okay, as far as getting a rough guide, right? With that first sentence of the first paragraph, that introductory paragraph, establish the topic. All right. Spend 2 or 3 sentences laying the groundwork, which is to say, like anything that the reader would need to understand or be aware of in order to fully appreciate your thesis, that's going to go in those 2 or 3 sentences, right? The next sentence, because again, it's exactly one sentence is your thesis, and then you're going to spend 3 or 4 sentences kind of laying out your argument. Kind of like giving a little like napkin map of like a quick preview of the argument you're about to make in the body of your essay. Now, I mentioned a second ago having like abridged versions of the introduction, right? If you were writing a 26 line essay, or maybe even like an essay from the hip for the SAT, what I would suggest is establishing the topic, right? Maybe give a sentence or two for background information, but that argument layout is most oftentimes, I see students kind of like making that a part of their thesis, right? And some students even establish the topic, state their thesis then with kind of that argument built in. So because of X, Y, and Z, it's clear that this is the case, right? Like that. And then they might provide some background information then. Okay. Again, the way that you do it and all that is up to you because you're going to be writing it in various contexts. So it's your call. You're the professional writer, right? This is guidance. Okay. All right. The body paragraphs again develop the thesis. And this goes back to what we talked about in the paragraphs video. Look, build the argument with as many paragraphs as you need in the body. Okay. Again, there's no magic number. Okay. If you end up writing a 5 paragraph essay because you had 3 points to make to demonstrate your conclusion, cool. If you write a 9 paragraph essay because you had 7 points to make or whatever in the body of your essay, just as good, just as cool. Okay. But each body paragraph will have those parts of, the topic sentence, the supporting sentences where the topic sentence is, like you've got elaboration, explanation, evidence, all that in support of or in demonstration of that topic sentence. And then if you're moving from body paragraph to other body paragraph, then you absolutely need to have that transition is the last sentence. Okay. Can't stress that enough. And then in the conclusion, we simply summarize the argument that we just gave. Okay, I'd change up the terms there, right? And then restate your thesis as a part of that again. Alter the terms just a little bit there, the phrasing just a little bit. And then, I always suggest that students speak to the significance of their conclusion. Okay, if that's something that, that confuses you in the moment, then, put your pen down and walk away, like push the keyboard aside and move on, right? But a lot of times when we get to the end of the essay, there's that one thing that we want to say to really kind of cap it off, right? To finish on. You can do that then. Okay. So here I've got an example of, a very common syllogism, right? That most of us have heard. Socrates is a man, all men are mortal. Therefore, I had three little dots there. The predator. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. Okay, so the topic of my essay, right, is Socrates and his mortality, right? My thesis is the conclusion of that argument. Socrates is mortal, right? My topic sentences, those are going to be the premises of my argument, right? Socrates is a man, and then all men are mortal. Okay. Now, you can attack it that way. You can attack it from the other direction, right? And make a claim. Like you come up out of nowhere, you're like, "Hey, Socrates is mortal," and then you imagine someone asking you, "Okay, why? Why do you think that?" Well, because of this and because of this, right? Because Socrates is a man, and all men are mortal, right? So you can either kind of build out the argument that way as you kind of brainstorm this, or you can kind of go start from the conclusion, and then think, well, why do I think that, and then build back. Okay, but when I outline this, right, and it's very important, outlining. Okay, I've got my introductory paragraph. I want to establish the topic. The topic is Socrates' mortality. Now, what are some things that I might want to go into before I present my thesis that Socrates is mortal? Well, the significance of Socrates, first off, and secondly, maybe the nature of death, right? Okay, cool. So then I present my thesis, Socrates is mortal. Okay, what's my argument going to be? Well, first off, Socrates is a man. I'm going to have one paragraph aimed at that, and then I'm going to have another paragraph aimed at men being mortal. So my first body paragraph, Socrates is a man. That's my topic sentence. How would I substantiate that, right? Okay. Maybe I have some quote of his, like I am a man. Maybe there's some part where he says, hey, right? Or we might want to say, like, okay, look, men speak, men walk on two legs, men do these things. And Socrates did those things too. So he's a man, right? Okay. And then here, right, I've got my transition where I'm moving from Socrates to death. So I might say something like, a very unpleasant aspect of being a man is that men die. So then I go into all men are mortal. Okay. How do I support that? How do I substantiate that all men are mortal? Well, to date, everyone who's ever lived that is not currently living, right? I mean, they've died. Men die. That's 100% death rate there. Okay. And then we might have documentation of Socrates' own death, historical record of that. Okay. Now I'm moving into the conclusion, so I don't need a transition. Okay. I simply restate my argument that all men are mortal, that Socrates is a man, and therefore Socrates is mortal. All right. So I've restated my thesis as well. And then I end it with his death and mortality being a necessary aspect of fully appreciating Socrates. Okay. So that's what it would look like in the, kind of laid out like that. Now, I've got this. I want to go over this very quickly because I think, a number of students kind of skip necessary steps, right, for the sake of getting done or whatever. What a lot of students do when they're writing papers is, as they write or perhaps as they type, they sort of have this conversation with themselves, with this imaginary audience, right? As though they're giving a speech or something, and they just kind of type it out as it comes to them. And that is the worst way of doing it. Okay. So what I would suggest is kind of following this process, right? First, just kind of demonstrate or rather generate some ideas. What is it that I'm trying to say? Like, what point do I want to make? Then I would ask myself, like, why do I think that? Okay. And that alone is critical because that gives you your core arguments, right? And the strength of that argument will make or break your essay, truly. Okay. Then I would outline. Okay. So I'd take that argument and kind of pull in then the textual evidence and all that I might need or that I will need to substantiate these premises that I'm using to demonstrate then or to arrive at, to deduce the conclusion. Okay. So I've got then, I've jotted some things down, I've outlined my paper, and then I'm ready then to, write that first draft. Okay. Then after I write it, I'm going to look at it just in terms of like the content, the ideas. Is it coherent? Does it flow? Is it well organized? Right. And then once I do that, I'm going to go ahead, probably, I may rewrite it if I need to shuffle some things around, right? I'll rewrite that. But then I'm going to look at it in terms of like editing, like did I misspell anything? Were there any errors, anything like that? And then I'll correct those, boom, and then I've got a final product. Okay. So if you were writing for me, a 6 to 8 page paper, I would expect each of these steps to be followed to the letter. If you were writing, for the STAR or the SAT, I would expect some abridged version of each of these things to be dealt with, to be carried out, right? Just kind of in the margin, just taking a few minutes to, okay, what is it that I want to say? Why do I think that? What supports these things that I want to say? So we then connect our thoughts to textual evidence and so forth. That way, we've got kind of we've got mile markers there, or map markers, I guess, to kind of like make sure that we hit each point there in a particular order, so that it doesn't come across like we're rambling. All right, all right, there we are.